lot of coffee, and now I am doing lots of work. These wide boards, you can see here, it's split right here. And we're gonna take that apart and we're gonna glue it, and it'll be plenty strong. But these are pine. They're old boards, but they'll be good. We're gonna do a nicer job and try to make it practical and strong and so on. So let's get to work. Time to make the donuts. Well, here we are to start the next part of this restoration here. We are going to start working on the backs here. We're going to see what the original back looked like. I mean, the last cover that was, they put over the top of it. So we can see the original button spacing, and like I said, when they put those buttons in back then, sometimes you can get them to look right the way they set them in. Other times the buttons are all over the place. They drill a hole, they didn't care. It was different back then. Yeah, these are old type buttons, and some of the old craftsmen, the old timers, they would prefer this type of button. So we're gonna cut all the twine. So over here I'm cutting the twine with a razor blade right now. Rather than having to rip them off like that, it's much easier to do that. It's not original. Over the years, I've heard stories of upholsterers finding guns, old guns and stuff. I found love letters and marijuana cigarettes. They might have one hell of a party. I'm gonna remove the cover and all the filling, and we're gonna see what we find on the inside here. More numbers. So this was the model number that we were talking about. That's black paint, but it's used throughout. This somewhat production. It was, I would just say it was a factory that made this somehow. You know, a lot of these things, even like when they made the guns back then, one part didn't fit another part. It's the same thing with the furniture. Cut these little twines. Now look at this. That wood was repurposed from some other, it was a cutting table, or they were cutting patterns or something on it, and you could see a bunch of lines in it. See all those cut marks? I wonder if that was like an old table or something. You know, wood was an expense. That's what it was. We're getting close to the end of taking something apart and documenting it. They sewed it kind of, they ran short and they sewed it, and like I said, it wasn't professional, that was for sure. The Depression era people I've met over the years, they were, they never want to throw anything out. You know why? Because they remember a time when they didn't have nothing, and they don't forget it. Pine is not the best wood to, you don't want it to be like this, cupped. Pine's just not a great wood to work, you know, to see. I mean, I could take that, yeah. I'm gonna get some glue on that too. We're gonna get this piece first. We'll need to get on both sides. I'm going to squeeze that together right there and get that set. Put that on the table that's flat. And then when that sets, then we can open it up and work on the other side. It was probably a support at one time. You know, when you put this in the back, in order to give it some strength in it, you'd have supports going down. We got some of them over there that were, you know, disconnected, but this has been broken. Somebody had chiseled it off. We're gonna make new pieces for it and make it strong. Check some glue into there. When I picked it up, it had opened up, so it's gonna need some glue in there, but it's not a bad break at all, considering how old it is, and it's just a straight line break, and it's an easy fix. You're not gonna get it all. There's too many of these little cracks in the wood, but we're not gonna throw out the whole piece of wood. It's just not, nobody would wanna do that, because it's original. I'm injecting into the crack. It goes in quite a ways, you'd be surprised. See, the wood cups after time, these big boards, because it's going, you know, it's just you're asking a lot of it to stay still for all these years. Get this side down here now. Inject it in and try to put it in the center of the crack so that when you bring it together, it's going to equally go out the sides. I mean, you don't want to waste the glue. The glue's expensive. That glue, you buy a big box of it, it's over $100. So you want enough. You want it just to come out enough, but not make a mess if you waste it. I'm doing this to spread it open a little bit. Something's only original once. So by saving the pieces like this, and this is why this piece stood out to me, because it was so original. It had most of its wood intact and fabric intact. Again, when something's this old, it could have been messed with so many times. Here.
See this guy? He nailed it to try to hold that
Yeah.
together.
See, that was doing it back then. Ed made an excellent discovery. That nail was trying to correct the problem that we're trying to fix now. But they used a big square nail trying to hold it together. But imagine me having a board today that looked like that, and I'm going to shove one of those crappy nails in there. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't like square drive nails. I don't think anybody does. But it's better than nothing. But you know what would have been better back then? A peg. A wood peg is so much stronger. It's ridiculous how strong a wood peg is. A dowel. You knew that was a problem? Well, I wonder if you could warranty it for us right now. If it was Amazon, they'd cover it 200 years later, no? So this most likely with this chalk mark, this was the first piece that he did on the sides. And then he doubled them up. He took the button design seems to be the same. Even though the wood's a little different shape, it's a little longer in some areas and shorter in others. But this is the button design that he kept with it. He come up with it. If you look here, you know, you would think that a button would be spaced equally from here to here, but I can tell you this, that looks to me more of a space going this way than this one is. So he marked it, and here I am measuring his work here. And I can tell you from working on that the buttonholes were
7.5.
substantially off, but that is very typical back then when they did this type of work. And again,
7.5.
when it comes time to upholster these backs, there's going to be a lot of finessing. You know, having a needle going on an angle, so that through that hole, so that we can match up with a proper, pleasing to the eye button placement. But you notice the chalk line over here, and that's what the fella decided that he wanted to have his buttons. You know, so that's how That's his own, you know, he was designing it, he was putting them, he could have put them any way he wanted to, and he chose to do it this way. And I don't really see too much of a problem. Looks like he did a pretty neat job. But we're gonna see if he would do it the way that I do it. As far as the buttonholes, they don't even line up. They're considerably off. So if you were to make something nowadays, you'd make it so that the buttons, see that one lines up right there. Made his button pattern, and then he took that on one, and then he took them and he stacked them together, and then he drilled right through. Yeah, see. But there's, you know, within reason, they had to make stuff work. And even though it's not quite the same design, it's a little higher here, they knew that the eye would catch that from here if one's a little higher, because we're looking for, what do they call that? Matrixing, the way our eyes look at things. All right, so we got that. Let's see here, these pieces. Do a little fitting in here. Basically, when he was working on this thing, he decided to have a button pattern on this side. Now the center here has the chalk line on it going across. But you know, this end doesn't have it. No chalk. He drilled the holes right through this one, from that one right into here. But he needed to do the chalk line in the center one because that is a one-off, that's a one piece. And this is how it looked to him when it was over here. He had these pieces and he wrote probably right here, somebody wrote and said, look, this is a whole ensemble set. That's just what it is. And that's the model number that they had, and this all went together, and it had to be fit. These were all made one at a time. I would have did exactly what they did. You know, chalk mark this one out. Because you can't drill through all the padding when you're done with these boards. The padding would get caught on the drill bit instantly, and it would destroy it. You can't do it. These things are so much hand work. And the machines, I mean, are as accurate as their hands were accurate. Next time episode, when we start doing some work in this thing, it's going to really start to pop. You're going to see what it is. And you know what? It may seem boring taking something apart and spending the time like this, because everybody wants the rapid reward. But you have to do things right with this, and it'll be outstanding. We're at the stage now where it's completely stripped down. We did the springing, and now it's time to add the padding. We're going to sew the seat. I'm not going to show all my secrets, but I'll explain to you what has been done. And so it'll go pretty good from now. I mean, we're going to clean up the wood, and we're going to put an oil on it, and you're going to see a lot more detail as far as the veneer. All this veneer you're going to see, especially right here. You can see where the veneer is going this way and that way, the cut. And that's quite the art that they did. That's a lot of time to do that. But just like people, just because you're a little worn out, you got some damage, visible damage, doesn't mean we're going to throw you away, okay? Or you're no good anymore. You know, I think a lot of older people, they like old furniture, the results that come with it, because you can take something that nobody wants anymore and you turn it into something that they desire, and they hope. It's a nice novel thought. They hope that somehow that'll transfer over to people. You make something right, it lasts a long time, and this is something that's going to be totally useful. you know, desirable again. It's never looked this good, ever, in 200 years. So, I upholstered a shop apron in there, which I've never seen that before. In the old days, when they make a house or something, they'd take an old pair of shoes and they put it in the wall. And that was good luck. So maybe he thought when he upholstered the shop apron into that piece, and maybe he kind of had a feeling that someday somebody's gonna find it. And we released all these spirits, and people watching this are gonna have spirits in their house now. I'm just kidding.